want to know which planet was causing your suffering? How about Earth?
Hey everyone, Brandflex here, back with a new Duelists of Eden video. I have been so excited to finally talk about this game to you guys because it has been so many months, like well over a year at this point, that I've been waiting for this game to come out, and now that it's finally out, I can finally talk about it to you guys. So, I've been an enclosed alpha tester for this game since October, courtesy of Shoix. Shoix gave me a key when he won the Next Best tournament, and so I've been able to play and learn, and hopefully I can pass out that knowledge to you guys, whether you're starting the game, you've played in the April or October beta tests, or you're a fellow Apple player who just give me some support. I totally appreciate it. And so before we get into the actual video itself, I just want to talk about that this game is a paid game. It is only $5 on the Steam store, but I understand that $5 can be a bit hard to achieve. So over the weekend, tomorrow, which is Friday for me right now, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I will be streaming this game hopefully a lot. And I'll be trying to do regular key giveaways for this game just to help out the community and try and get more eyes on this game. So keep an eye out for that. I'll probably post it in the community tab. And yeah, plug over. So anyways, point of the video. So I will be covering each character. There's a lot of them. Hopefully not that thoroughly, but just kind of a glance at them. And then I'll play a game with a deck that I built for them that I will recommend for you guys below, and trying to show how to pilot it. Now, these decks are definitely very beginner focused, so I've tried my best to make them as thematic, but also as easy to pilot as possible. Just keep in mind that some of these cards are balanced around ease of use versus ease to dodge. So sometimes as you play with better players, you might think that certain cards are not doing so great for you. So you might experiment, do that. Like, these are not the end all be all decks. These are not decks that will, that you'll keep for your entire game time. These are just decks that I think are hopefully simple enough to understand as a newer player, and therefore you can learn the game a bit more comfortably with them. Please feel free to deck build. It is super fun. Anyways, so we have a bunch of characters. Saffron is my highest level character. I am pretty much just a Saffron player, but I've been in the alpha test for so long that I've seen these other characters a good amount, so I'm hoping that I can still pass on good knowledge. So going straight to it, we'll be talking about Saffron first. Her first weapon is going to be Sparkler, which is just her throwing a pellet at the enemy. It's going to do some pretty good damage, and it travels quite fast. This is probably the best weapon in the game right now, so if you don't believe me, trust me, it scales the higher and higher you go, with the better you understand your character, but it does have a very high mechanical skill requirement. But even if you aren't confident with landing Sparkler just raw and like comboing off of it because you're not as fast as everyone else like I am, you can still use it really well for pressure, so don't forget about that. Her other weapon is slightly worse. It's going to be Spartex. This is going to be a strike weapon, I think they call it. That's going to target 4-way. And it's quite good for pressuring far away from you and also getting some cheeky combos. But it's a bit less versatile than Sparkler. But I'll try and use both of them in my gauntlet run for you guys as I show you guys the deck. So my deck is going to be Step Slash, Push Slash, Auto Slash, Sweeper, Salvo, Mana Catch, Claw Trap, and Thunder. These first three spells are going to be your melee package. So Step Slash and Auto Slash dash towards your enemy, and then do a slash, and then Push Slash is the regular slash that pushes them really hard. Sweeper and Salvo are two pretty generically decent AoE spells. Sweeper will only target your enemy, and they can kind of walk into it to take some more damage. It's been nerfed since its heyday, so it only does 4 damage per extra hit. And then the other spell, Salvo, it's pretty easy to dodge once people are used to the pattern, but it will clear all structures for you. So Saffron has a pretty big problem with structures, but Salvo is a really good band-aid for that. And then for the last 3 cards, Mana Catch is just going to be very good for beginners. This card specifically will fall off very hard as you play against way better players because they will actively punish you for casting it. But against worse players that, are still trying to get used to controls like you are, you can get away with getting Mana Catch value very often. And then Claw Trap or Thunder are going to be 2 very strong default cards. Claw Trap isn't that great on Saffron, but it's very easy to set and forget, and it really sets up your other spells very well if your opponent runs into them. And then Thunder is just a really cool spell. You just slam them in the head with 7 damage, and it's really fun. So we'll jump into the gauntlet right now, and I'll try and play a bit slower just because I can kill these bots pretty easily. So I'll just show you guys the first application of Sparkler and why it's considered to be so good with the alpha testers. If you tag somebody and walk forward, that's a true combo. And obviously this is an AI, so it's gonna be kind of slow, but you can even just pressure multiple waves like this and you can counter a lot of spells, and it makes the game, it takes a lot to get used to, especially since it's quite hard to catch up with because it's so fast, but it is what it is. So Sweeper obviously here to cover a lot of base, so is Salvo, and then we can refund our mana with this, and then our quick melee spells. As you can see, I cast on the wrong order, but that's just their way to get in, get out very easily. And so the other reason why Spark Text is not that bad is because if you hit the sour spot, you can actually combo with Thunder right afterwards. The bot did block it, but it's totally fine. We're showing off the combos. And then, obviously, Sweeper and Salvo are quite slow as spells. And what you can do is you can buffer them after you use Step Slash or Auto Slash, and they'll cast immediately while you're still on the other side, and that will cut off a lot of lag time for those spells. And so, you can go ahead and finish off the AI here. And again, this deck isn't that hard to pilot, but Salvo and Sweeper are pretty easy cards to avoid as players get better, so you might have to swap out your mileage for that. And that's kind of when Saffron becomes very hard to play, because you have to learn how to be a bit more precise. But as you become more precise, the more annoying you'll be with your Sparkler, and the harder it is for your opponent to approach you. So moving on, we'll be talking about Selicy or Selicy next. I'm pretty sure it's Selicy, but people have said Selicy. I prefer Selicy, so I'll keep saying that. This is going to be much more melee focused than the Saffron list was. You'll see the similar package of Auto Slash, Step Slash, and Push Slash, but we'll also now have a lot of other melee spells, and some of them do dash as well. So Crossfire is going to be a melee spell that kind of originates on you. It is very flexible. It actually does go quite far, so you don't have to dash to hit it, but you get really good damage if you use it properly. Same thing with Sheer. It's a bit more expensive, but it's a lot of damage if you hit it well. Minigun is just a very strong spell overall, and it covers one of Selicy's main weaknesses of, not having great range or projectiles. Step Lance is another step spell that just naturally synergizes quite well with Selicy. Mistletoe is just good damage overall. Using the same trick that I explained with Sweeper a second ago, you can actually make Mistletoe very, very consistent damage if you land your step spells. And then Mana Catch, once again, new player playing as new players, you're going to be able to use that a lot. So again, this is a much more melee focused deck. So Selicy's, I didn't talk about her weapons at all. So Selicy's first weapon is going to be a dash forward that hits in the row she's on. So you can see here, I'm doing 2 damage. And her second weapon is kind of more of a setup spell. You drop a Hail Blade on the ground that the enemy can walk over, but they'll take 2 damage from it. So I'll just nail Hazel right now with it. You'll see that it doesn't do any hit stun. That's mostly for a balance reason, because when it did do hit stun, it was problematic. And so that way, you have some value from hitting it properly. But the main function of W2 is that when you walk over it, you do a little slash, and does a lot more damage. So these spells, I'll go ahead and just start taking on the AI. You can see how Selicy's hitbox manipulation is quite strong. You see their Mistletoe just kind of hits. Obviously, I still have Step Slash, which is more damage than your normal dash, and has a better hitbox. And I can even do some shenanigans like this. I could have even dashed and done some as well. So there's a lot of combo routes with Selicy. She is honestly quite annoying to deal with as a good player, because she is very slippery, and just the way that her character works is that it's very hard to catch her and react to her stepping onto your side of the field. And if you don't have projectiles, it's hard to counter her on her way in. So I think that was a bit shorter than the Saffron one. So I'll show you guys again just how flexible Selicy is with her combos. Right there, I just did a bunch of damage to this Neera AI. You can see her HP is kind of high still, but that's because Gauntlet HP goes up as you continue to play. So full disclosure again, I'm not really a Selicy player, so I'm not super used to all these combos, but I know these combos are all very good because I got slapped by them a lot back in the alpha test. So she's very fun to master, and she's again very annoying to play against, but I really can't deny that she is just really, really cool. There's nothing more cool than just being able to dash back and forth and slicing and dicing, which is exactly the fantasy Selicy fulfills. And if you want to play her, more power to you. She is just very fun, but she is quite nerfed from her demo days. So going on to Hazel. Hazel is your mechanic / wrench character. She's going to have, her first weapon is going to be something that drops a block. And then if you hit that block, you can generate a turret from it. If you hit somebody in melee, you're going to do 5 damage. You can see that happening to the turret after she hits it. And it does a lot of damage, and it knocks them back by 1 tile. So it's quite a good combo tool. And then we have Deviate, which is going to be a kind of it's a very slow moving, it's not that slow, but it essentially just pushes people up if they get hit by it. If you've played Teardown Hazel from the original One Step for Eden game, you'll probably recognize it. And then here we are with the deck list. Bomb is just very good. So again, we'll see some packages reemerge. So Bomb Backstab is very strong because Bomb is quite hard for people to clear. Selicy with Seplance is one of the characters that can clear it a bit easier, but a lot of characters don't have spells or abilities that hit above or below them. So putting a Bomb in the back row is actually quite strong. And then Backstab is just very good for denying the back row for anyone. Warp Raise is going to be very good on Hazel because your W2 combo is right into Warp Raise. So it's a very, not very reliable, but it's a somewhat reliable 4-mana combo that can do 15 damage, which is quite good, especially if you're learning how to combo in general. And then Beam Crystal is just very good to hide behind and stall. The rest of the items are more for like the kind of like, the Diagonal Beam is more for like the brain dump that you're going to put on your enemies to make it harder for them to interact with you in general. Pull will let you use your wrench to bonk your enemies a bit more often. Rush is quite good just because you can jump to the front really easily. Maybe you've been like hiding behind your beam crystal for like 10 seconds, you're maxed out on mana, and you can jump to the front with Rush and catch your enemies off guard. And then Apprehend, same idea as Pull, enables your wrench a bit more. This spell is probably the first to go, honestly, but I just want to show you the wrench combo so you can see what this character can do. And then Mana Catch as always. So we're going to go ahead and play the list. Hopefully I can show you guys exactly what shows up. This deck does have a bit of a back or third row issue, but that's what Warp Raise is for. You can see here, that's the bonk combo I was talking about, and they can generate straight here for fun. And let's say here, I can actually go for the Warp Raise thing. So here, I use W2, Warp Raise, and my enemy gets hit really hard. So already my damage is quite good for hitting anything. And then Bomb, I'm going to put that here. And then see Rush, if I was camping, I can surprise Zombie and then go for the full combo and wrench them, which is really fun. And then Beam Crystal, I'm hiding here because this Chiretta bot has a pretty bad deck, so I'm very safe back here. And then here I can aim Diagonal Beam and then go for the Warp Raise combo. So pretty straightforward. Again, these are Gauntlet AIs, but I know some people struggle with killing Gauntlet AIs, so being able to kill the Gauntlet bosses quite easily is a pretty good sign that you at least know how to aim things properly. So hopefully it makes, like, hopefully you guys are fine with me showing the Gauntlet gameplay, just because playing ranked right now is going to be all against fellow alpha players, so I'm going to get my butt absolutely kicked by them, especially if I'm not playing my main Saffron pick. And then I don't want to go into unrated to play against other new players, because that's just kind of rude of me to do. So Terra is going to be more of a mage-focused character. Her W1 is this beam of light that hits 4 away, and it'll crack then break the tile. And if you hit a broken tile, it's going to shoot out little pellets that also deal damage. So it's going to be quite nice. Also, it's cracked. Not bad. And then her other spell is going to be Dark Matter. It's going to hit the exact same orientation 4 away, but it's going to spawn a summon that explodes after a while and will pull the enemies towards where it exploded. And then this deck is going to be much more of an AoE spam heavy deck. It's going to feature Backstab, Diagonal Beam as well, but we're going to use new spells like Ion Cannon, which will synergize very well with your W1 and also cover a lot of this field. Boomerang, just to make the Ion Cannon dodging a lot more difficult. Push Slash is really good because you can start your W1 and also just gives you really strong coverage over the front. And then Shadow Shift is just a really good mix-up for your W2. We'll try and show it on the bot a few times. And then Wrecking Ball, again, just for your W1 usage, and also it's 0 mana, so it's quite good to put in where it actually fits. And so here we can already go ahead and show off the Shadow Shift tech. If you stand here and Shadow Shift, if the thing was still there, I would have popped it just now, but I messed it up, so. And you can already see that, again, this is an AI, so like the combos are a bit different, but already you can see how confusing it can be with how this character works, because if I use Ion Cannon, and then I break a tile, and then I shoot my Diagonal Beam, suddenly my Diagonal Beam will no longer go, like people already don't know how Diagonal Beam looks, but if I shoot Diagonal Beam into a broken tile, it suddenly makes even less sense. And so the main thing you want to watch out for with Terra, which the Bio bot doesn't really have, is projectiles and step spells, just because your character isn't that great at dealing with people running straight on to you. I'm sure you guys see the combo. That's a combo. Sorry about the cough. But yeah, you can obviously tell that this character is potentially a bit more reliant on just being very precise, because it is pretty hard to hit these on moving players. Like the bot's not really responsive at all. But again, that's the reason why we run stuff like Diagonal Beam. Shadow Shift is quite generous with its hitboxes. Push Slash, Backstab is like a very straightforward combo. They can do on anybody. And then Ion Cannon and Boomerang are just a lot of pressure on an enemy that's been trying to dodge them for however long. So Terra is a bit on the harder side. I say a bit when she's actually way harder than the last 3 characters I talked about to get into. So if you want to learn Terra, then hopefully this deck will be good for that. But if you're struggling, don't worry. That is literally just on par for the course for Terra. So now we're on to Shiso. Shiso got a mild rework, so if you know Shiso from the April or the demo gameplay, he is very different. His W1 is still the shot, but now if you have no bullets, he's going to throw a blank, which we'll just wait for the preview to hopefully show. It won't show, so we'll talk about that in the actual Gauntlet run. And then his second weapon is going to be a pretty good spell. It's going to be a delayed shot that does a lot of damage if it hits, and this is the way you're going to get ammo. Now, obviously, it has a clause there that says you have to hit something to get ammo, and the way we're going to solve that issue is we're going to run 3 structure spells: Bomb Toss, Barricade, and Beam Crystal. And so that way, you don't have to rely on accidentally hitting your enemy with your W2. You can just aim for the structures that you spawned and get your ammo that way, or even hit your enemy if they combo into it. And then for your other spells, we're going to be running Mana Catch and Claw Trap just for very good fillers. Step Slash and Auto Slash will be very good to not only combo your weapon 2, your delayed shot, but also get value off of your gun. Your gun will go very well with Backstab. You can shoot them into the back, then use Backstab and bump into the front, and then Barricade. And then Minigun is just very good with both your W1 and W2. And I know that people aren't really not necessarily that like used to Shiso, but he's changed a lot, so I can't really blame anyone for not being used to how he plays now. So you can see here, I don't know if the bot will let me, but oh yeah, if you hold shield, you can actually be very safe with your cast. So you can see that my shield is up. I actually haven't talked about the defensive tool very often, but I think it matters most for Shiso. So yeah. And then there's a cool trick with Auto Slash you can do, where if you hit Auto Slash, you can press the gun and then your bullet, and that will always give you enough time to shoot all that, and it's a lot of damage with just one spell. Same thing is true with Step Slash, and then you can even use combo. And people said that Shiso is quite slow, or like it feels bad to use weapons, but I think it's probably fine. I don't know. Shiso's not a character. He's been changed so much that it's really hard to say whether he's good or bad. This is just, I think he's probably fine. You just have to realize that you really do have to use your structures as a way to generate more ammo. And then if you throw a bomb, I didn't even actually show. I'll do another video or another fight to show you guys the really strong way to play this character. You can throw your bomb in the back row and then shoot it. And your opponent, if they don't dodge the bomb spawn, there we go. You actually have a really powerful package in the back, so you can always just press Backstab and then punch your opponent really hard. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff with Shiso that's very different than what people are gonna be used to from him, just because the way he played before was way slower. You can go through. But I do think this method is supposed to be healthier, but again, very, very different than what he was before. So, going on to the next character, we're going to be talking about Violette, or Violette. She is going to be the musician of the cast. Her W1 is going to be a pretty fast spell that hits 3 in front of her, and the first and second spot in front of her will also be hit by a sour spot, dealing only 1 damage. And then her W2 is going to be very reminiscent to Saffron's W1, except her W2 is way slower to cast, but it has similar combo properties and it also pulls towards her. So what we're going to be using with VO is we're going to be using the 2 Dread spells. Courtesy to Mikkel for giving me this idea, but I think these 2 spells are pretty good on VO. They're very easy to aim, and because of how VO works, she should be quite safe to use them. And then we have Step Slash, Auto Slash, Push Slash to kind of get access to the back row, just like Backstab. And then Bomb Toss is just very strong on VO because she can prep it very easily with her W1. So usually the problem with a lot of these spells is that you don't have strong access to the third column, but Violette does have really good column access. You can see that if you are precise, again, this is a bot, so I'll hit everything. But if you want to like spam W1, it actually is a true combo. You just mash, I think. Actually, is it? Oh, that'd be further away, so that's why it's slow doing that. But For example, like if I'm pressuring here, I can just press cross slash and they'll get hit. And then if they're standing here, obviously it's a bit hard to hit this like this. But if you do hit the ability, then you could go straight into backstab. Fire breath because it's very good coverage. And if your opponent is camping in the back, that opens them up to bomb shenanigans and backstab damage. So like here you can see that the bot's like struggling a little bit. I can even manipulate the bomb back to me if the bot gets out of the way, so I can push the bomb back to do more damage. And then there's a really cool trick. I say cool as if it doesn't make every alpha tester mad, but if you hit the sour spot of your W1 and you press auto slash, it is basically guaranteed damage. So go ahead and kill the bot here because I don't think she's gonna walk ahead. Yeah, she won't walk ahead. So, oh right, the bot's really reacting. That's probably the main reason why the bot's so hard to defeat for newer players, is that the bot will like literally react to everything you do in front of them. So you do have to approach them kind of weirdly. Before we get off VO, we can show a few cool tricks where with Frost Breath, usually it's quite slow and laggy, but when you use a step spell, it's much quicker. And then obviously it can always push people back into it. And yeah. I think the actual like VO is actually quite difficult as well. She is very, very precise. And so there are much better lists that are better refined than this one, but this one just seemed, I kind of stole it from Mikkel. I don't know if this is actually one-to-one what he's running, but it seems quite good, so here we are. So Reva is going to be your shield maiden. She is going to throw a shield for her W1 that travels around the map, and if you catch it, you get your shield back. And her W2 is going to be kind of like Rush that we saw on, I think it was Hazel earlier, where you kind of sprint forward and damage that front tile a lot. Obviously Rush is a cross, while Reva is one tile, but that's how you balance it. And then for her spells, we're also going to be going a bit more on the spam heavy side. Diagonal Beam, again, very good for making your opponent confused. Shield Throw is extremely, extremely good if you can hit it. And even if you miss, because of how Reva's W1 works, you can refund your shield very easily. Mistletoe, again, is a very strong spell to hit. And Stinger, very similar to Shield Throw. If it hits, it's very good. And the downside of Stinger, which is draining your shield, is mitigated very heavily by Reva. Meteor is just another form of missile auto tracking, and then we have the very convenient auto slash step slash push slash combo with mana catch at the end to really round it out. So Reva is very good at being disruptive with her weapon. Unlike Saffron and unlike VO's W1, it covers a lot of distance. If you cast out the bottom row, you can actually cover, it's essentially a mini boomerang for 1 mana, and you can spam it, right? You can see how much distance I'm covering, it blocks out the entire back row, and it's just very annoying to fight against. And so here we can just see how much damage I do. Again, bot doesn't dodge, so it looks a bit easier than it is. And Stinger is slower frame data wise than Mistletoe is, but we can again use the trick where we use step slash into Stinger. And for the most part, it's not a true combo, but it will be quite good. And then, yeah, just clean up the bot here. Reva's gameplay, you do have to be quite good at defense with her because she doesn't have access to as much like insane combo potential like a really well played Terra does, a really well played VO, Saffron. She's much more stable, so you do have to play her in that way. You have to make sure you're playing on your mana and your zoning power, and just make sure that you don't get caught for free, or you just at least guarantee a counter to interrupt your opponent's rhythm. Chiretta is the sewing girl. Her W1 is going to be a 3-away that will hit in a small column, and if you hit the bottom column, that's her sweet spot, and it'll pull upwards to the middle. Her W2 is going to be Suture. It's going to be like a mini K-wave, kinetic wave, which we haven't really explored because it is a bit hard to land. But it's essentially a very strong melee spell that will guarantee a lot of your 4-aways. And I haven't done that because, again, it is quite precise. I do think Chiretta is a very strong combo character because we do so much with this character that most characters kind of struggle to do. I don't know where that animation went, but you can see like you can even play Amplifier, you can manipulate everything. I'm waiting for the Shiso bot to walk down so I can actually drag him up for Thunder because you can combo Thunder. Oh, it's kind of awkward. But yeah, it's kind of weird playing against the bot sometimes. It doesn't really cooperate, but see, I can apparently miss pull because the bot's again not cooperating. And I didn't talk about the spells. I have Tsunami. Tsunami is just a very good spell for denying the front. When you're playing against most enemies, your opponent will always camp in the back, and that's the reason why stuff like blink to drag them out, pull to pull them back. Obviously, if you miss them, you'll be pretty sad, in which case you can always just shuffle. But it is a very big weakness of Chiretta, or Chiretta, so that's the reason why we always play around that by having backstab, by having like usually step spells, but the step spells are kind of accurate. And again, this is supposed to be a newer player friendly video. So I think you like if you're playing as a real person, you'll be cycling a lot for that backstab and bomb combo to get them out of there, or blink and pull. But otherwise, if you get them into the damage range, it'll be a lot easier. Let me see if I can actually get this bot to cooperate this time. So like this guy's standing in the back, right? So I can always burn push slash, and then I'll go for the pull. They dodge, so I just either shuffle, or I can go for backstab and drag them out. In which case I can go for a lot of damage. And you have to remember that a lot of characters are forced to interact at some point if they want to play the game. So even if your opponent is sitting in the back, it's like kind of fine, because you are carrying cards that help you interact with them camping back there. They're not just like sitting at the tree. You just have to be careful for stuff like blink. I can always throw a bomb, and I get so much more mana in the front than they do because of the multiplier that you can't see anymore. But there is a multiplier that rewards you for being further up. So this bot cooperated a little bit more. Again, you can see the power of the game. And then here, just Thunder Whirl, bot's dead. Do a little Tsunami for the inefficiency. I think Tsunami in this deck is probably the worst one, but we're really just trying to force our opponent into the back row so that it makes it awkward for them to play the game, and also lets you sit in the front and really farm out your mana. And then if they approach, it's kind of up to you to react in time with all of your melee spells, but you have the advantage because they have to take the frames to run to you. So moving on to Gunner. Gunner is going to be a bit awkward of a character. He's been reworked a lot. His first weapon is a laser, and at first glance it might seem really strong, and it is honestly very, very annoying. But the issue is that it's slightly slow to balance out the fact that it is a big hit scan laser. And then his W2 is going to be a pretty big melee AoE that pushes him all the way back, and it does cause a flame, which is why we're running something like Combust. And so, since we do have a good laser, we're going to be using Air Rifle as kind of like a cute 0-mana filler spell to combo with it. And then all these other spells are just kind of, they're going to be trying to get benefit from your W2 and also deal more damage and pressure that way. So, we can already see with, funny thing about your W2 is that if you use it after a step spell, you get thrown all the way back home. So you do want to be a little bit careful with that, but it is a good, like, oh, you can't hit me anymore, I'm out. And then Air Rifle combos quite well. And then we have Fire Breath to use with Combust in case we're not getting good access with your W2. And so again, this character's a little different just because he hasn't changed so much. But he's not the worst. I do think people have considered him to be pretty bad. But I think the end consensus has been that he is kind of straightforward. Whether he's actually straightforward because it's boring, or straightforward because he's like kind of honest to a T with how linear his stuff is something up for debate, but he is playable for sure, and hopefully this deck is kind of good enough. It is a bit more precise than the other characters' decks are, but I'm hoping that it's like all these spells are pretty generous. Like Fire Breath is a pretty good coverage, Step Slash, All Slash, Push Slash, same thing. Your laser is pretty good coverage. So your damage might be a bit on the lower side, but you should be able to hit your damage pretty often, and hopefully that's good enough. So next will be the Shopkeeper. The Shopkeeper is very weird because she plays so differently to all the other characters, and you can probably tell immediately that my deck also looks very different. So her first weapon is going to be Tax Return, where she drops a mine that does 2 damage if an enemy steps on it, and then it'll strong pull them to the front of their map. And then her other weapon, Gravitas, is going to be a kind of like it's going to be a diamond around the 4-way, and then if you hit it, it'll pull them into the center of that 4-way. And that opens up some pretty interesting builds. I did not talk about the deck at all. Let me jump out really quickly. Because you can run a lot of spells that are otherwise not very good on other characters. Like Claw Trap, again, very good filler spell, but you can pull your enemies into it if they're not paying attention. Mine, also a spell that's very expensive and quite risky because it lasts not that long. But once again, you use Gravitas, you can pull them into it. Same thing with Fade Away, you can blink and then use Gravitas to surprise someone for 13 damage, and then every other spell is just very good for punishing people that run to the front, which they might be because you have Tax Return to pull them to the front. And then Backstab is a very good filler spell. They'll probably be running away into the back because you have such strong melee spells. So then it becomes a game of, oh, am I going to hit you with my tactical turn and then bump you into the back? Or are you going to try and dodge my Backstab to begin with? So we'll see the gameplay here. I know, again, it's very, very different from most characters, but I'll show you guys the power. Like, I can hit the mine and then pull Chiretta into it. Assuming that's an actual player, they'd probably never walk into the mine willingly unless they're really distracted. But this character, like, I can just pull them in. Like, I can use tactical turns. I can use tactical turns to drag that opponent in, then use range wave and bounce them back. I can then use tactical turns, set it up, and then when they get pulled back, I have Tsunami. I can drop a claw trap, and then wait for the enemy to walk, and then when they walk, pull the claw trap, one up, do all this stuff. Like, this character, again, is very weird, but she is very rewarding if you can get her to work out, just because it's like a very cool combo character. You can see how fast they kill because of how efficient my deck is. And so, again, she is a bit more precise. I'm starting to rush through these last few characters because the video's getting long, but you can really make it hard for your opponent to walk by setting traps everywhere. So not only are you blocking them from walking properly, you can also use your other weapons to pull them in and manipulate them into someplace you want. And because of that, she is very difficult to play against. Like, very good SKs will make your life so difficult, and one of the best players in the game right now, Purpile, is an SK player, and if you see her on ladder, she will teach you how scary this character can be very quickly. And she has won some of the alpha tournaments for a reason. She is not only that good, but she can also pilot this terrifying character to a very high level. So, again, Shopkeeper plays very differently than every other character in the game, but she's pretty straightforward. So Harissa is the newest character. This deck that I have here is actually nothing like the deck that the best Harissa player is playing, if only because the best Harissa player plays a deck that is very fine-tuned for being precise. And so I tried to think of a deck that was a bit less precise and hopefully still worked, so please let me know if this deck worked for you guys, because this is a very experimental idea. It was like something that JP Shopkeeper made when Harissa first came out, so it might be playable, but I generally have no idea if it's actually good or not. I did the thing again where I dealt first of all, we got Primer, which is our first weapon. It's going to be kind of a similar hitbox to what Chiretta's W1 is, which is a small column, except it is at a 2 range and it will strong pull towards the front enemy column, just like Shopkeeper's tax return. Also, I just realized I called someone JP Shopkeeper. That's JPSK. He's a Japanese player that just happens to have that name, so sorry about the confusion. But basically, she has that, and she has a unique mechanic where she has a teleport pad, and pressing her second weapon will teleport you to that pad and also throw paint 4 away. So with that in mind, we'll be using... she is pretty good at being a keep away character. Her W1 is kind of hard to use without step spells, but if you're using step spells, you do have to be quite precise, which is why that's not in here. Tsunami Backstab, we've seen, very standard core. Mana Catch, just very good, again, for similar as before. Northwind is just a very good filler spell to kind of like punch your opponent and hit them when they're not looking. And Minigun, same vein as Northwind, just very, very good for doing damage for enemies that aren't really expecting it. Now, Frost Barrage is a spell that better players will dodge very often, but it is a spell that will combo well with Acid Rain, because Acid Rain will deal a lot of damage in a circle, or in a square rather, and the more frost they have, the more poison it applies, which is important because we'll be running Venoshock, which actively pops all of your poison at once, and Kunai, which is just a good confirm for Venoshock. So enough said about these spells. We can jump right in. Hopefully I can show you guys exactly what it looks like. So Northwind, pretty good combo spell if you're trying to like hit something and they don't expect it. Unfortunately, it's Saffron bot, they kind of just walk away. And you can see like here, like, oh, Saffron might hit me, and then I can just press my W2 and get away. So it's quite a good spell to just really confuse your opponent, especially if you like go from corner to corner. And then because of that, like if I'm hiding over here, let's say that my opponent is like where she is right now, I could even teleport and then walk Acid Rain, and then it's just a lot of coverage very quickly that you don't really expect from most characters in this game. So Backstab, honestly, Backstab is not the greatest. The reason why I have Backstab is to encourage the opponent to come forward, just so that your weapon can have a bit of use, which will combo very well with Tsunami. So like, you can do that into Tsunami and Backstab, and then, as always, you can always just minigun, and then pop the Venoshock poison with, or pop the Kunai poison with Venoshock. So obviously I kind of messed that up there, so it is kind of hard to, again, hit the bot while they're not cooperating. But again, not sure if this deck is really that great, but I think the pieces are there and the deck kind of functions as is. But this one, you might need to play with a bit more. And if it comes down to it, just let me know if you want to see the actual best Harissa's deck. So going on to Dreadwyrm. Dreadwyrm kind of has an unfortunate, I guess, like, trait that she's just known as spam character, which is unfortunately true. Her first weapon spawns a sword above and below her, which will do 2 damage, and then her W2 will be a laser that she fires twice, which means she can actually move to adjust the hitbox of the second laser. And so the deck will kind of reflect that. It's very AoE heavy. I have the Tsunami Backstab Northwind combo, Ion Cannon, Diagonal Beam, Boomerang for more mental stack, and then Sweeper Salvo again, just to really cap it off with how spammy you're being, AoE-wise. This deck will definitely be a deck that falls off quite hard against players that are actually paying attention. But if your opponents are kind of like not able to keep up with how much like spells you're throwing, it will be very good for just, you know, distraction, oh, get hit by this. I'm like, and as you play this character, since most of your spells are quite vague in hitboxes, like you can always like use that to run away. You can always use Diagonal Beam from really far back, and then your opponent will probably be hit because no one knows how Diagonal Beam works. And then if your opponent's just camping front, then that's what Sweeper's for and Tsunami's for. Obviously, they can pay attention and move out by the time they see, or your Sweeper might have value, but once again, like, this is not a deck that you're going to be playing against really, really good players. It's a deck that's going to be very good for you to learn the game at a base level, so don't be too worried about if it scales off. Hopefully by the time you kind of found the way you actually want to play Dreadwyrm, and you can just scale off of this deck. But it will be very good against most players at the very beginning, in my opinion. So last 3 characters. These are all DLC characters, I just realized. Dreadwyrm. Yeah, Dreadwyrm's from Maiden and Spell. Neera is going to be from Freedom Planet. The color unfortunately kind of blends in, but yeah, Dreadwyrm is Maiden and Spell, Neera is Freedom Planet, Queen is Quantum Protocol, and Maypul is Rivals of Aether. So pretty cool lineup. Anyways, Neera is going to be your Frost theme character. Your W1 is going to be a single stab with her spear. That's going to do that's going to apply a frost when you hit. And then her W2 is going to throw a bunch of summons. And when you interact with these summons, when you damage the summons rather, they'll also explode with some icy frost applications. And so her deck will reflect that. You might remember Venoshock. Crystal Rifle is the frost version of that. It stacks up more and more damage as you do more frost, and the way we're going to do frost is going to be using Heat Seekers and Barricade for a very neat interaction that I don't think will be very hard for beginner players to get the hang of once you've practiced it a bit. Auto Slash is really good because Auto Slash guarantees into Crystal Rifle and Venoshock if your opponent doesn't hit step it, which is a concept that we'll talk about later. And then Toxic Cross, again, another spell that combos from Auto Slash, and Perforate is a very strong spell that combos off your weapon 1. So the reason why Toxic Cross is really good as well is just because it gives you the spears for Perforate. So I drew Perforate easy or really early. It's not a big deal. You can always just use Perforate as it's intended. Just like do a quick combo. Barricade. I should have done the combo with Barricade, so we'll try and get that shuffled back in because this combo is very, very important for your mileage. So as mentioned earlier, your W2 does spawn little, like they do explode in frost. So you saw there that the spikes are like kind of exploding, right? So when something lands on them, they'll still do that AoE hit. So when I use my W2 and I don't barricade on it, all those barricade pillars will have that frost, and then Heat Seekers targets everything on the map that isn't you with frost missiles. So then it'll pop the frost on the barricade, which will empower your Crystal Rifle, and then a lot of your spells. I don't think your W1 necessarily combos into it, but it's like Auto Slash definitely will. So we'll see Auto Slash in a second. So I have Auto Slash here. If I hit Auto Slash into Crystal Rifle, assuming I didn't get countered there, it would have been a true combo. So obviously I ran right into Salvo because I wasn't paying attention. So we'll try and just cycle out for that once again. I messed it up. This video's been so long that I'm trying to lose track of what I'm doing because I just wanted to hopefully get I did it again. I just wanted to get the content out really quickly, so let me try and not mess it up this time. So yeah, so here it's gonna be this, and there we go. You can see 14 damage because that's a cap from stacking it so much on Barricade. So I know that one was a bit more haywire. I'll try and actually play the deck properly. I'll just show you what the vision was. So again, Venoshock also, you can hit the combo. Obviously it missed. I don't think the right combo off of it. I don't think so. The perf rate might not work with that combo, but there should be plenty of routes. So like here, Toxicross, I can also combo from Auto Slash. So you can do a lot of poison, and if your opponent's not paying attention, then you'll be able to really check them out with Venoshock because of how the combo works. And then Barricade, you can suddenly walk out of that. Venoshock will combo out of Pistol Rifle, but it's not the true the other way around. Just be careful of that while you're going around trying to hit your opponent. These spells are very precise, which is why we rely so much on Auto Slash to confirm into it. Like hitting Perforate, like what I just did just now, is really, really difficult. Often you'll be using Barricade and then walking up to try and hit your opponent afterwards. And then here, I have Auto Slash into Venoshock. I'm waiting for the AI to redem a little bit of HP. You can see there's a hit step. Hit stepping is when you walk out. Is when you walk, you get hit, so you move spaces, and that's really important defensively. But again, I'll talk for another time. And so, home stretch. Sorry for my lack of attention for these last few characters. These are admittedly characters I have less experience on, just because, again, they're very far from Saffron, and I kind of like went across the row. And so, Queen, Maypul are unironically my least played characters. So, Queen is probably the hardest character in the game to get the hang of, just because her spells are pretty conditional. Her first weapon is going to be Set Piece, which will drop a chess piece. It's going to cycle Bishop, Knight, Rook in that order every time you resummon it, and they'll hit in the pattern that you expect from those pieces from chess. Her W2 is going to be an Execute, and if you hit the chess piece with it, it'll fire a laser that does 4 damage, so it's quite good. And then her deck is just going to be very like straightforward. The issue with Queen is that there's nothing that really necessarily hard confirms into anything, so you're going to have to be very good fundamentally to hit all of your spells. The good thing about Queen is that she is quite good at controlling rows. Because of how her weapons work, if you run to the very front and you drop a piece, a lot of players will be very scared of walking in front of your chess piece no matter where you are, because if you're on the front row, you can always shoot that laser and deal 4 damage. And that's the execute play. So if I'm standing here, I can be over here and still blow it up. So most players will try and avoid that just because you're confident, again, you can blow it up quite easily. And then if you blow it up on them, you can always follow up with combos and then summon your piece again. Now obviously there are particular patterns that you're following for your pieces, but you can always, but that's for an actual Queen player to show you guys an actual video. And so there is a funny infinite combo that Queen has if she walks up. Oh, also I should probably talk about the main combo you have. So most of these line spells will always combo into each other. There are a few exceptions, but for the most part, if I hit the first one, yeah. Javelin is a weird one, but if you go minigun, kunai javelin, or send javelin, you'll always get the full combo off, so it's just quite good. And so we'll just end it here. Oh yeah, so this is the full combo. You can do this loop for all of your mana, and your opponent can't do anything about it. So that's a funny little issue with Queen. That's the reason why Queen's very powerful in the front row, because she is so, like, she just gets so much value because she gets to blow up her crystal easily. If you walk up to her, she gets the full combo. She also offers lasers. She can do the infinite combo here. You also get more mana at the front, so she has more mana to cast. And it's easier to hit her projectiles because of how much shorter the range is. So very, very hard character again. She is very difficult because she requires so many fundamentals, but if you can get to those fundamentals, her kit is very, very well rounded. You just have to be good enough to be at that point. And then the last character is going to be Maypul. Maypul is going to be from Rise of Aether. She's going to be much more melee oriented. Her W1 is going to be a triangle that pushes back based on HP. The threshold, so she's going to do a 1 tile push from 100 to 60 HP, and then a 2 tile push from 60 to 30 HP, and then all the way to the back from 30 down to 0. And then W2 is going to be another 4-way. If you hit an opponent with it, you'll mark them with a seed, and if you hit the seed, you'll stun them for a really long time. Or if you reactivate your W2, you'll drag them forward. So I'll try and show all that in a bit. And then, again, I tried to think of spells that were easier to aim, just because the actual strong Maypul spells or decks don't really use spells that are quote-unquote easy to use. So Barricade, again, very generous with its hitbox. Acid Rain will benefit off of Barricade, which is the reason why I have them both in. And then Minigun Blink, these are all just spells that should be quite good on Maypul, just like box out the front and also pressure the back still. So Backstab, again, very good spell to just, you know, force your opponent into a very awkward place, aka the third row. And if they're in the third row, it'll be easier to land your W2. This bot kind of ran up, so I'm just gonna smack her around. And then Sheer is very good for the third row stuff. Maypul is a character that I am the least familiar with, just because the only reason why I played her was the lab funny combos. You can see there, let me see in this actually. That's the wrap status. So they're stunned for a really long time, and they get wrapped. And so that kind of works with Acid Rain, because Acid Rain has a funny feature where they can actually act out of it quite easily, so you're guaranteeing them to not be able to move during that time. And then you can also do a thing with step spells where you can cast your W1 between steps. So here, I can always go step/L/W1. And I could have even cast the W2 there at the end to really wrap it all up. And yeah, so you do have to do more damage, which is why you gotta block it properly. And you could run Venom Shock, but I don't, just because it seems a bit difficult to use. But again, this is probably the weakest deck I have on these characters, because I'm not a Maypul player, and she seems like she is, again, very good if you play her the way that others have been playing her, because she is a very strong character. The sole issue is that you have to be very strong fundamentally to get to that point. Otherwise, you will just not be able to hit your opponent properly, because you can't pressure them off of the rows you want to pressure them off of. So, yeah. That'll be all for this video. It is really long, because I wanted to at least do somewhat of an in-depth guide for all the characters. Again, full disclosure, I will be focusing mainly on Saffron as the days go on, outside of the basics and combo stuff or really cool decks I want to showcase. And yeah, hope you guys all enjoyed. If you're here, one last plug, I will be streaming on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and probably a lot of the days, just trying to really push this game out there, get some more content for VODs, and also just letting you guys know that I will be trying to do giveaways for this game, just because, again, $5 is not a lot. I think the game is very easily affordable, but just as a gift to a friend, or if you had a reason, if you're like not into the game at the beginning, but you're like, maybe I'll give it a try if it's free, that's what the giveaway is for. So yeah, thank you guys all for watching. I'm so sorry for the long video, but hopefully it was worth it. Hopefully you guys got something if you clicked around, and if you're still here after a lot of time, then thank you for staying for so long. So yeah, I'll see you guys next time. Talk to you later. Have a good day, night, wherever you are. Bye bye.